Welcome to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Richard Miller, and my co-host suddenly has a hankering for a Saigon beer and a lovely holiday to Thailand, Dr. Luke Gledall. How are you doing today, Luke?
I'm very good. Why would I want to be going to Thailand?
Well, this is the... I wondered whether you thought it was incredibly tin pot for a team to be sponsored by actual companies and products that people can buy. And isn't it, in fact, much better to be sponsored by a series of made-up brands owned by your chairman? Leicester City. So the YouTube feed, Luke didn't get a chance to watch the match, so I will explain in all the gory detail the wonders of that 0-0 draw. But the YouTube feed was Leicester City FC's TV, and in the half time we had an advert including Jamie Vardy in an empty King Power Stadium getting a phone call from a chap on a Thai beach, and they conversed partially in Thai and partially in Yorkshire over the fact that Jamie was really missing being with the Thai chap, and the Thai chap was really missing being at the football ground, and all in all, it just made you want to go for a nice holiday in Thailand. And then there was a bar full of shiny, happy people enjoying their Saigon beer, and you don't have any of that trouble with Elevate or D taxis. I feel no pressure to purchase, and thankfully, even if I did, I couldn't.
You couldn't find a means to throw money at our chairman, even more.
Exactly.
In our club, yeah. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's why we're so underutilized with, FFP and kind of income from the fans. There's no legitimate way to give our money across.
Channel our money back into the football team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, there you go. It was an interesting experience. And I thought the YouTube feed, it won't surprise you this, Luke, quite a lot more reliable than I follow. And I had to go for a pee in the second half, was able to pull it up on my phone as well, and didn't miss a second. It was brilliant.
Excellent.
Okay, should we scoot along to?
I think that's a good segue into breaking hoo-hoos.
It's a perfect segue into breaking hoo-hoos. So we're still this transfer window. It's got a long tail, but the business end of things really needs to start happening fairly soon from our perspective. We're pretty thin squad wise, in particular up top. But I think disappointingly this week we saw Lako went to Birmingham, someone we were rumoured to be in the mix for. So that was pretty disappointing. We've been linked with De Cruz again, and I'm not sure whether he counts as a striker. But
I'm not quite sure what he counts as, to be honest.
No, but that feels a bit, unless it's just papers putting two and two together, it's a slightly disappointing rumour to be involved in, I
think De Cruz is a bit like a car like a Prius that's, a combination of using both petrol and electricity. But then actually when you look into it, you find it doesn't use either petrol or electricity. It uses a fuel resource that's not identified at all. I think that's the definition of Alessio De Cruz. He's not really a winger and he's not really a striker.
Yeah. I love how you're sort of slowly becoming Jeremy Clarkson in terms of your car analogies.
And with the clarity that I seriously know next to nothing about cars. And I think as anyone who probably would know anything about cars has listened to any of my analogies. So
supposedly we've sort of inched closer to our deal for Trumpy Bum, Windy Ass.
Mm-hmm.
He although it does feel like that, as we've sort of alluded to, it feels a bit like that thought experiment where the distance is halved almost day by day, but he never seems to get any closer to becoming a Sheffield Wednesday player. So who knows if that's something that will come to fruition or not. But again,
Do you think that I always used to love Under the Days of Brian Laws, and it may be a term that was used previously, but it seemed to be a lot of it almost seemed to be a bit of a catchphrase from Brian Laws, was that we've had him in the building, we just couldn't get him over the line.
yes.
Which I love, because it makes me think that there was like a tug of war going on within Hillsborough. And like, if we can pull him over the line, if me, the kit man, the guy who does the announcements, if we can pull from one side and get him and his agents to pull from, we can get him over the line, then he's our player, guys. He's our player.
Or like the desk where they sign their contract is actually on the pitch, so you can get him. You get him within the physical entity of the building.
Maybe
you
they
have
did
to drag him out.
Maybe they did sign contracts. It was just over the state line, you know.
Oh dear! Those law boys have done it again. But he would be a good addition, I think. I mean, his record for us is a goal in every 3 games, which, if he can keep fit, that's the caveat on half our squad at this stage.
That's a goal record that makes New You blush, really.
It is.
And what's Jordan Rhodes' record? Is it 1 in 8 or something at this point? Or
yeah, I'm not sure. Something like that feels reasonable. We should look that up, because it will be annoying for people.
Do you think it's more annoying to think about it, or do you think it's to guess at it, or it's more annoying to actually know the reality?
It's hard to tell. So he's played 47 matches apparently. 56 and 10. We should be able to work that out. It's 1 in 6 pretty much, isn't it? Slightly better than 1 in 6. 10 goals in 56.
Well, that makes him seem a real bargain for the $8 million we've paid over 4 seasons. Of which there's another final $2 million payment getting sent by carrier pigeon to Gibson, and yet he still doesn't like us, and yet he still really dislikes us.
No,
we gave you
he should wake up every day laughing and smiling at what he'd managed to do to us.
No, more torture.
But I think Windass is an interesting one, because I don't know if you saw the video that was kind of doing the rounds in the week, but it was his highlights from his time at Rangers. And it looked like, it looked like sometimes he was playing as part of a front 3, but quite often he looked like he was the middle of that front 3. And I know he's not that tall, but he's not slightly built. So I do wonder whether it's something he might be able to do, play through the middle.
I don't think he'd be... But I think he has more kind of... It's not like, hey, last season, hey, we're going to play, here's a concept, here's how we're going to roll the dice. I feel like this would be a latter-day Bullen kind of idea if things really weren't working, and if Bullen was still in charge, and maybe it sounds a bit disrespectful. But I feel like maybe they'd be like, hey, how about Sam Winnall, one of the right on the front 3? Like, that wouldn't work. Like, I think there's more benefit of, I think of Windass being someone who could play through the middle, or play just, I think he's...
But not lead the line himself.
I think he's better at that, not to the point where you're like, this is a legitimate option and something we should be doing every week. But I think it's something that makes you think. He's a player who's got more versatility for his skill set, I think.
Yeah. So basically, the deal supposedly comes down to, if we can pay, Wigan still owe Rangers 450,000 from when they signed him, and if we can pay Rangers what they're owed, he's ours. And
is that due to what is actually owed, or is that just like a set payment that would be paid as a sell-on clause, or that's actually what?
I believe it's what they still have to pay Rangers for him.
Right.
But whatever way it works, effectively we're giving Wigan 450 that will then go to Rangers, and if we can do that, then he's a player we can have on our books.
But then effectively within the situation that Wigan are in, the beggars can't be choosers model, we're effectively getting him on a free from Wigan if we pony up. It
seems that way, yeah. And I guess from the administrator's point of view, they've cleared a debt, because football has come first only in football.
Right. And then obviously they'd have the tune of, his salary off the books as well.
Exactly.
probably going to make a fair chunk and a dent out of their wages. I think they said that Cook going was actually quite a chunk.
Oh, right, okay.
Out of their playing staff budgets. Sort of one of the many things I seem to have gathered from the times when I foolishly go to look at Alan Nixon's Twitter feed for any Wednesday news and just end up cycling through a bunch of Wigan news.
Yeah, it's mainly Wigan news, bit of Bolton sprinkled in. The other bit of news before we get to the game against Leicester. I don't know why it brings me such joy to watch. I think I enjoy watching any football team doing their kind of outdoor activity type things, but particularly obviously love Wednesday doing it. So the shooting escapade the team went on, it just brings a lot of joy to my heart to see footballers like go-karting or well, climbing a wall or whatever. I don't know what it is, but this was I particularly enjoyed the shooting. What did you make of it, Luke?
Well, nice to have the lads remember the concept of on target. That's obviously a big one. I wonder if, I wonder if they were the same thing as me when they discovered that hitting the post or the bar was not on target. I wonder. I felt like it was probably a couple of years ago now, and I was like, oh yeah, I get that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering now as well, Rich. Again, we're a podcast that's bristling with ideas, and if you're listening, Netflix, Amazon Prime, we've got some good ideas, including, I think, from this now, Rich. As you said, you enjoy seeing footballers, people who are talented in one field, doing and applying their trade at other things as well. How about a footballer reboot of the Krypton Factor?
Oh, that would be good. Just, I think just a kind of, an idea waterfall a la Alan Partridge of just taking different football teams to do different activities would just be, go ape with Bournemouth. Go bowling with the boys from Arsenal. I think it just lends itself to a spitball, just run through lots of different things. And I think you could probably get
Preston North End.
Orienteering with Leighton Orient.
Oh, there we go. That's it.
They don't all need to be on the nose like that, but sometimes it's fun to do that. Yes. So
we've got to get this under Richard Osman's nose. I think he's gonna. Just say, how much money do you want, guys? We're like,
So we know that Jordan Rhodes won the clay pigeon shooting, and we also know that Gary Monk won whatever the zombie shootout thing was, which is a delightful detail to come away with. So and we took that sharpshooting with us into the game versus Leicester City.
So how was it, Rich? So this was 5 a.m. my time, and I felt for the sake of it that I didn't particularly want to get up for such a thing.
So I think first half is the fairest kind of picture of both teams. I think both teams pretty much had, barring the odd injury, what their first teams will be out, more or less. I don't know, because we did have Dawson in goal for one half and Wildsmith in goal for the other, so they're really keeping us guessing on that front. And we did see Van Aken play in the first half ahead of Burner, but I can't think that's... But I would think the rest of that back five, Palmer at right wing back, Harris at left wing back, and Iorfa and Lees is probably, 4 out of those 5 are probably the first choice. So it was interesting to see Van Aken, or Van Achen, as they kept calling him on the commentary. So that was interesting. We saw Izzy Brown as part of the 3 in midfield, and then Adam Reach played up top with Jordan Rhodes. Leicester, it looked like the team that was playing towards the end of the season for them, and Vardy started the game. I think they had Mendy in midfield when Ndidi normally plays, but other than that, I think it was pretty much their first team. So, it was all right. I think Leicester probably started a bit quicker than us, which is potentially to be expected. There was a couple of little sort of balls flashed across the box and things like that. But we probably had the better chances in both half, I think. 10 minutes in, I also had a free header from an Izzy Brown free kick that, I mean, he was dead centre between the penalty spot and the goal and managed to head it over. Pretty poor effort, really, from a good chance. Reach had one that he didn't quite get in the end of. I didn't make tons and tons of notes because there wasn't a huge amount that happened. It was all fairly controlled, even stuff. Leicester had one good chance in the first half where Vardy had a shot sort of low down to Dawson's near post, and then I did say a classic Wednesday save to the middle of the box. Always offering a mug off, make one get one free on chances. But we had a decent first half. Brown and Luongo sort of stood out. I thought Van Achen looked rather good. I've seen other people report otherwise. Maybe I was doing the, I was so worried for how he was going to perform that even just being barely competent was impressive. And Harris was really, really good again. I think Harris is just so good at that left wing back role. Suits him down to the ground. Then there was just tons of changes. We swapped Wildsmith for Dawson, Odebajo for Palmer, Lees and Van Aken off for Shaw and Burner. Penny came on for Harris. We changed the whole of the midfield. Pelopessi, Hunt and Deli Bashiru came on, but Rhodes and Reach stayed up top. And basically nothing happened until all the subs had to happen again at the hour mark. We were lucky not to concede about 65 minutes. I put 68 minutes, Reach off for Brennan, and I offer off for Grant. And I also had completely missed the fact that Rhodes hadn't been on the pitch for 10 minutes and had been replaced by Hagen. Hagen probably had our best chance of the whole game, probably had the best chance of the whole game. He sort of was played through by Brennan and was one-on-one with the goalie and sort of slotted it wide, which was a bit of a shame. Wildsmith made a really good save from a Demarai Gray shot, but really nothing much happened second half, and there was no rhythm to it because all of the changes were happening. I think both teams swapped every player off during the game apart from maybe one Leicester player. I thought Brennan looked fairly bright, and I thought that Hagen did more than Reach or Rhodes put together in his brief cameo. He looks not bad. I mean, obviously it's a friendly, but he's got a bit of pace about him. He looks fairly strong. And to be honest, the only other person that stood out from the second half was Odebajo. I thought Odebajo looked really good at times. There's a video or GIF or GIF going around of Deli Bashiru kind of nudging a Leicester player out of the way, which obviously he must have done. He didn't have much of an impact on the game for me. He looked a bit lost. But yeah, I mean, we played a team that finished in the European places and didn't embarrass ourselves, and on another day really should have come away with a goal or two out of it. So it seems like a good workout. It was fine. I think the fact that we are now a week away from a proper football match is slightly worrying because this is our first proper friendly, and it was played at friendly pace. And the fact that we're going to be in a Blood and Thunder Cup tie in a week's time, and then in 2 weeks' time, the league game, I think we'll probably be ready for. But it feels a bit at the moment like on the transfer front and a fitness front, that Walsall game is going to come pretty soon for us, and maybe too soon for us. But there you go. And then the final bit of news after the match, Bannon is officially the club captain now. So that mantle's been taken from Tom Lees, which I think we'd agree is timely.
Yeah, I think that's more positive than not.
Yeah.
I think that we probably need that change, and also we've maybe previously been a little bit questioning about how that mantle has kind of been for Tom Lees.
Yeah, the crown has weighed pretty heavy on Tom Lees, I think. He's not a natural captain. That was one of the interesting things, is to hear the voices in the match. Like, Wildsmith has a heck of a yell on him, so he was constantly talking second half, and there seemed to be a new person in the dugout just sort of yelling forward, which I liked, to stop them sort of just sitting back. So
you don't know who that was, do you?
I don't know who that was, that bellow came from.
Have to see who was endorsed for bellowing from the new Wednesday coaching staff on LinkedIn.
So I'm happy now, I think, maybe to move along to the main course of today and get into our predictions ahead of the season. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think we can go and do that. I was just going to say regarding the transfers, I think we know that strikers take time. There's not many other teams at this stage in this league really getting the fumes going off the fax machine, really.
No, and at the extreme end of things, I can't remember who I was reading. One of the teams I was reading about, I'm trying to, again, rather than guess. But yeah, I think there's one team's only got 15 senior pros at this point, one of our rivals.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's slow market. I think that's the strange thing with it. The matches are going to come way before the deadline.
Yes,
and we all know how all these 2-bit chairmen and directors of footballs and whatever love to play, eighth dimensional chess and do all this brinkmanship nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can only imagine there's going to be quite a few clubs going into this first month of games sort of hoping for the best, and then a little bit under par. Then a lot of stuff happening to kind of course correct once that happens. But we should be I do sort of feel like we should be the exception to that, because we've got 4 wins to make up on everybody else. We've got 4 wins before we have nothing, and this would be a great opportunity to make sure we've got our squad ready while everybody else is trying to be clever.
I think previously I would say that I think that we have gone at quite a pace. This week has been slow. There's not been any news. There's a disappointment of Lico. There's the Ford experiment, with Windass.
But wouldn't
there hasn't really been any kind of new names, which has been a little bit surprising. I think I saw something today about a Rangers winger we were looking at. Is it Jordan Jones?
Yes, I saw that. And we know that's a legitimate link because he's had a long-term injury last season. So
yes, exactly. So it
fits our bill.
Fits our bill, and we might get a chance of getting him to be on the positive side of that as well.
Gary Monk likes them young, hungry, and rusty. That's how he likes them.
And seemingly some paper talk about Rangers inquiring about Jacob Murphy, and were quoted $1 million loan fee and £40,000 a week, which is
a lot of money.
I don't think he's on. I'd be surprised if he's on 40,000 a week. I mean, I imagine he's on a good wage.
But Premier League is just nuts, isn't it? Because they bought him. They bought them both, didn't they? Or did they go to different clubs?
I'm not sure. They definitely have Jacob. I'm not sure if they have Josh.
I thought it was like a 2 for 1 or something. But but then wouldn't you feel so much more comfortable if we had like a Chris Mine in our back pocket? I suppose we've got Chris Mine in Jordan Rhodes, a faded, once highly thought of Championship striker. I suppose we've got that. We don't another one of those.
I definitely would. That was it. I think initially I said, this is the point. I'm getting a bit sketchy. I'm getting a bit nervous. I mean, but here's the thing. The EFL Cup, there are games going on right now, which is just insane. I'm just checking on my phone. It's having a bit of a ding-dong. I think, Stoke have won on penalties against Blackpool.
Well,
Portsmouth have beaten Stevenage on penalties as well. I'm not going to talk. Why am I looking at this? This is tedious. Sorry. I don't think that counts as a season start. I really see that as another pre-season. I'm glad it's loaded before the first game because it's a chance to get more minutes. I don't think we're going to really glean anything great from the season from that. So I think initially I would have said I would like at least two. We're going to get free. We need 3 strikers, I think, But I think I'm almost saying that I think we're almost getting towards this. Kind of makes me feel a little bit like when I kind of came back off my sabbatical and came back looking and watching Wednesday, and the times I kind of felt in League One I'd almost weirdly be, and it sounds facts of any real kind of desperation, but I almost feel like we're going to be getting players with strike rates of 1 in 4, 1 in 5, 1 in 6.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a weird kind of like, well, hopefully we get the opportunities that it kind of rotates enough and that we've got enough goals elsewhere. But we just really need some bodies that offer us something. And initially I thought that before the season started, I'd be happy with 3 strikers, 3 recognised strikers. Now I'd be happy with just another one before we get started. And then we can get more, closer to the end of, so that deadline is at mid-October.
I think so.
Which is it's just insane. I don't really know if that helps proceedings. I mean, I don't know. There's always a lot of talk about the transfer window. Should it be open all the time? Which I think would be better than the current regime. Should we bring the deadline a lot more forward? I think that'd be a lot better, to be honest with you.
So so it's Monday, October 5th, which is before the UEFA competition squad deadline the following day. However, there will be additional domestic window that continues. Oh, sorry, the website's decided to load up. Domestic window that will continue through to October the 16th, and clubs will only be able to trade either loans or permanent registrations with EFL teams. So I don't know whether that applies to us or just League One and League Two teams.
I'm not sure. It's kind of bananas.
Because the loan window went on for longer for League One teams previously, didn't it?
Yeah, I think we've lamented previously the death of the emergency loan transfer capability is really sucky.
It's interesting. So the game finished on YouTube, and then YouTube auto played another video, and it happened to be the season review for 2004-2005, which I was then subsequently glued to, and it's just a bit sad that you don't get. I mean, we had a real revolving door of talent that season, but somebody like Kenwyne Jones, who can come in and almost make a career out of it for himself out of a 1-month loan. That just can't happen now. It's got to be 6 months or a year. I know theoretically I sort of understand thinking behind having the transfer window, but as a football fan, I liked the time when it was a bit freer and things could happen a bit more. It was a bit looser, and I do think, particularly like if you play something like Football Manager or FIFA or Pro Evolution Soccer, the transfer window has made every football game rubbish now because you're just waiting for the transfer window to do the fun bit of the game, which is kind of the wheeling, dealing, and improving your squad. But there we go. So we're gonna do our predictions, and it does feel premature for Wednesday, and probably for other squads. But maybe we'll give ourselves the chance to make updates. Up to one week up to the first game kicking off or something like that.
Our pre-pred here. Nobody likes anything that's pre, do they?
So how do you want to do this? How do you want to lead off?
It's an interesting question. What do you think, Rich? Should we do the relegations first?
How about, because I think for me certainly they by going through the positions in the league, I will have given away some of my answers to the surprise package ? And the what I've called top of the flops / wet lettuces. So would you mind leading off with that? Is that all right?
Sure.
So who do you think is going to sort of surprise people with how well they do this season?
I'm going to go with, I think my surprise will be Middlesbrough.
Ooh.
But I'm not going to I've seen, in preparation for this, I watched quite a few, because I'm genuinely, I'd like to say, with the machinations at the end of last season, I'm so confused by this very strange division that we're in, with this weird kind of collection of teams, and again, it feels like I don't quite know what multiverse we're in, that Barnsley is still in this division. It feels weirdly like Wigan should still be with us. And also maybe one day, some of the weak spots in the eternal sunshine of Luke's spotless mind and my bizarre mental structure, maybe one day we will play Ipswich again, and I won't keep getting them confused with Reading.
Maybe.
So,
Maybe.
I did find this a remarkably tough set of predictions. As I don't really progress the biggest convictions about any of the sides.
Yeah.
No football's been kicked. We've mentioned this kind of weird, very soft transfer markets right now. But I feel we live in aspects.
A full month and more of signing players, really an awful lot can change, can't it? And we know the sort of domino-like structure of a lot of deals. If X goes to Y, then A goes to B, and things like that.
Yeah,
there's
the whole
that
kind of domino kind of effect with this. But that's the weird thing, because it's late and everything is late. Weirdly, we look early with our business, right?
In a way, yes, yeah. Well, what we've done so far. But then we maybe had a lot to do, that more than most clubs, I think, to do. But yes, yeah, I'm pleased with what we did early doors. It's just a bit of a shame that.
So I generally feel like everyone's division is this world of lack right now and failure.
Nice.
So I'm almost tempted to do this prediction, Rich, in an inverse order, like inverse suckiness, like last season Hull were the champions of suck.
Champions of suck, lovely.
So even though I think I've suggested that, first of all, we did this last year, and that I probably suggested that we do this again, I can't just say, I will play your game, Richie Miller, you demon jester. Because I'm coming to this and just being like, this is, I just feel like, it's so hard to do, because I think it's just we had a recap and we were, we made some pretty terrible predictions, but it's this hard thing to predict anyway. But right now it's like, I don't feel like there's anyone who so that's the thing. So that's my kind of segue on to talking about Middlesbrough, is basically, I think the surprise package, because they won't be complete shit, but I don't think that I'm kind of on board the mentality that, Colin is going to wave his promotion wand again and get them up on the top six. I think them being kind of, the crest of the bottom of mid-table and comfortable, I think is actually pretty good, considering they were just abject last year.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think I've sort of picked out Stoke as my surprise package, because I think they've bought well with the last roll of the parachute payment dice. I think they've made some pretty shrewd signings early doors. Obviously, we've still got time that they can still make other signings. So I think they might be a bit of a surprise package, in that I don't think they're making fashionable signings, but I think they're making quite sensible ones. And my other one, if I had to pick, if in terms of just being surprisingly safe, I think Barnsley might do okay this season. And by okay, I mean they might finish slightly away from the relegation zone, which again in of itself is a minor miracle and a large improvement.
Yes, yeah. I've actually, hilariously, even though you've mentioned that, I picked surprise package for Middlesbrough, but I actually opted outside of the big pictures we'll talk about in depth, but I've gone for 7th for Stoke. So I guess I kind of agree with you for the surprise package. But again, I feel like there's just a lot of eyes on Middlesbrough, because it was such a torrid season for them last year.
Yeah.
And I don't legitimately think that I look at their squad and think, oh, they're really underperforming.
No, but then they've never shied away from spending money. I mean, they've had sort of successive managers,
including our own.
Including our own, throw a bit of money around. But it doesn't. Well, it's so bizarre that, like, Braithwaite, for instance, was there for all those years. So, like, there's some level of, I don't know. So, there's some clever scouting being involved, but just not. It's just the actual sort of football operations have been so poor. They've not got what they should have out of the players at their disposal, I think. In terms of top of the flops, I think Bournemouth aren't going to be in the promotion picture at all. I think they're going to be spending a season navel gazing and wondering what their club's about, having lost their special one in Eddie Howe. And it wouldn't be desperately surprising if they do a bit of a Charlton after Kirbishley and kind of sink, maybe even have a dalliance with relegation spaces, places. I think maybe that's not surprising. I don't know. As a choice, it's not daring enough
for the limp lettuce.
Because
I've actually gone for exactly the same as well.
Oh,
I've plumbed them to be 11th in the table. Because I mean, that's the funny thing is, like, if you look at some of these teams that are relegated now, that drop down into the Championship, there's that weird kind of mentality. Like, the thing I want to say about these teams that are getting relegated, on top of having the failure payments and the parachute payments, they're also, some of them, selling some of their kind of top English developed players for big bucks. So,
well, that's it. Bournemouth, they've sold Aki, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
And Brooks is getting admiring glances from all sorts of places, although one of their problems last season was that Brooks was injured for almost all of it, as someone who shrewdly put him in his fantasy league teams can attest to.
Mm-hmm. So, but I guess there's the interesting thing, I look at that and think it's fine to sell all these players, but the question is, who are you replacing them with? And Bournemouth's squad right now is exceptionally thin.
Well, you could argue that Bournemouth is the long-term project of Bournemouth has been an abject failure, in that all of their good players and reliable players are pretty much the ones that came up through the leagues with them. And as they've aged out of the squad, they've not found good replacements for them. And that's why they've just slowly declined, because it's basically, as those players, people like Charlie Daniels and those sort of guys that pulled them up through the leagues, as those guys have got old and been eased out of the squad, they've never quite replaced them. I mean, I don't know quite how you replace Charlie Daniels, a kind of left back come centre back that scores 12 goals a season and assists and takes free kicks. There's not many of them about. 6'3" and with an absolute wand of a left foot. But there's less formidable talents that have had the same thing happen with them.
But the thing with Bournemouth now is, like, I don't really know what the plan is. So effectively, they've hired from within, right? And Jason Tyndall was essentially the assistant manager to Howe.
Yeah.
So Howe is gone. So I'm always confused with that. With, like, why is this the problem? It's not a problem. It's just a systematic change. But you're not really changing anything, because you're bringing in someone who's still within the ethos of the club. It's a very soft change.
And one thing I was thinking with our new coaches, I can't remember who it was, whether it was Dave Jones or Stuart Gray, but they were talking about the players getting bored of a voice and wanting to, actually changing things up in training and having another word in their, another voice in their ear can sometimes pay dividends. And you absolutely don't have that when the assistant, if you go from first team coach or assistant manager to manager, you've been the voice in their ear and now you're still the voice in their ear. So it's a very incremental change, I would think. And how often do assistants go on to be good managers? Not very often.
No. I mean, essentially, if you kind of see that these if these managers need to progress their career, then that's something they need to make a step up at some point. I don't know. I don't think it's going to go particularly well. I don't think it's going to go particularly well for them. I don't know. I think they need some degree of change, but then I think it probably needs to, again, be within. I mean, that's the difficulty now, is that you can look at teams like maybe Southampton and maybe Watford to a lesser degree, that they've had this kind of identity of football, and, they've got a director of football, they've got the mentality and the plan that if someone fails, then they've got the next person lined up, and then they've got the next person after that. There's kind of like a continuation. But then I don't know if that's a thing for Bournemouth, purely because Eddie Howe's been there since, within two spells.
Yeah.
Within his brief holiday in Burnley. Coming another show.
Weird up north. It's weird up north. They don't like you wearing your trainers to the club.
Eddie Howe's vacation in Burnley, another different gravy productions.
They put gravy on their shit. Those weirdos out there.
So I don't know. Like, I'm thinking a lot about the quote recently. The best time to build, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
Yes.
Like this, the best time to rebuild Bournemouth was probably a few years ago.
Yes.
The second best time is now, and they're doing nothing. Yeah. I don't know whether there's a long-term plan and a vision, and it's just going to be seen as a transition year. But the hilarious thing is, especially in all these predictions I'm seeing, is a lot of people being like, "Oh, Bournemouth are really good, aren't they? Oh, they're a really good side."
Yeah.
Like, they were a really good side under Eddie Howe.
Yes, exactly.
And I also felt that they signed good players within that identity under Eddie Howe. I don't know what they have now.
It's interesting what you say about the project as well, because hopefully it's not doesn't speak too much of our situation, but they were bought by this Russian rich guy and very much his kind of plaything, and loved Bournemouth, built his life in the area. Then he dies and his family take over, and they have a very different attitude towards it. They want to treat it like a business, and I think Bournemouth do turn a profit. I think they've consistently turned a profit. So, but that doesn't generally build great football teams turning a profit.
I know we're talking a lot about Bournemouth on this episode, and for the sake of this, but I think it kind of ties together a lot of the things we can kind of get onto and may cover when we talk about other relegated teams, because there's often a thing that we as football fans, we kind of see these teams come down in the position that we are a perennial second or third tier kind of team now since the turn of the millennium. And, I'm often thinking when these teams come down, I remember thinking this with Newcastle coming down, thinking, well, X player won't want to play in this division. And I'm sure he could engineer a move to whatever the Premier League sides are. So I don't even know how many of these players that are going to be at Bournemouth. I don't know if... Sorry, I want to say Charlie Williams, that's no one in particular, is it? Callum Wilson.
I don't
know. Callum Wilson wants to play in the Championship. I feel like he's a player who's probably too good.
And what about Trevor Batchelor?
All your favourites.
Oh, Johnny Knees Up. Come on.
Johnny McSorley. Josh King as well, probably engineer a move to, some team. Even the fact that, even in their desperation, Man United were looking at Josh King as part of their striker before they signed, was it Ighalo?
Oh, yes, yeah.
So, I don't...
They used to be desperate and then they signed Ighalo.
So it's just very thin. I don't see them doing anything. I'm staggered that people are thinking that they're gonna. I've seen some people predict them to be top.
But I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? I think since parachute payments came in, the average is that 2 teams from the Premier League go back up. But that third can often be in free fall.
Yes.
So that's the sort of, almost in predicting, and I think the gap between the Championship and League One is very big as well. So it's almost, that's what the predictions really are. When we're talking about top and bottom of the table, it's which 2 do we think of the relegated teams do we think are going to succeed, pull their business together quickly enough and do a good job, and which one do we think is going to flop? And then of the promoted teams, do we think any of them are going to be able to hang in the Championship? Have they got enough backing, enough of an identity, or enough about them, or enough sort of star quality? Because sometimes that happens to sort of thrive at the Championship. That's almost what it boils down to. And then there's the odd exceptions. It's like which one of Derby, Forest. There's kind of a group of contenders that are top 10 almost always, and then there's a group that are bottom 6 or 7 almost always.
Yes.
So in a way, like you say, it's very hard to actually say what's going to happen. But in some ways, there's a lot of predictability in that. You'd expect Forest, Preston, and Derby to be there or thereabouts in the top 10. And the promoted tems generally will struggle. Will any of them, survive the struggle? Yeah, it's interesting. So we're in agreement on Bournemouth. I also think QPR might sort of fall away a fair amount, having sold Eze, because I don't think they will replace him like for like very easily. And I think he carried them quite often.
I've just predicted a 15th finish for QPR while you've brought them up.
Same sort of, same difference really. Okay, so do you want to do relegation now, or and then do the top, or which way around do you want to do it?
So relegation top and then finish with our beloved Sheffield Wednesday?
Let's do that.
Okay. So, 22nd in the league. Oh, I should do it from the bottom, maybe.
Okay.
Started from the bottom.
Yeah.
Yep. 24th, bottom, champions of suck. Congratulations, Wycombe Wanderers.
I've got the exact same club in the head.
I just don't want to sound like the biggest dickhead, but we're just getting the feeling that it's just a day out for them.
It's got a vibe of that, hasn't it? Which I think their last jaunt up the leagues, which it ended unceremoniously with the day where they were happy to sit in the cheese wedge when we got promoted against over Sheffield United. so many years ago, because it feels like they're really pleased to be here, and if they get some chips while they're here, they're going to be over the moon.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a landmark achievement for them as a club, but it just seems a world above them. And I also don't think it's... I mean, this happens, but I know when we look at the world of predictions, there's also like, oh, well, they've got momentum from going up, but that doesn't typically happen for the team that goes up in a playoff position. And I also don't think it's really going to be one of those teams where any of the teams that come up and surprises anyone.
It's going to be funny watching the Beast at Championship level. I'll be really pleased if he can get like 5 goals. Even in saying that, I know that 2 or 3 of them will come against Sheffield Wednesday. But if he can sort of...
I mean, if he does that, then maybe we should be batting our eyelashes and think about bringing him in as a striker.
After today's game, Luke, wouldn't be a bad idea. Something resembling presence up top might be all right.
But again, that maybe reminds me a little bit of maybe I feel a little bit like how we've been looking at like Barnsley. Is that typically we'll think that they're not a very good team and we should be beating them, but maybe also being slightly envious of 1 or 2 of their players.
Yes.
I hope with this coronavirus and coming back to football, I hope some of our fans get to enjoy a trip to beautiful Adams Park because it's a sweet, endearing little ground. I enjoyed my trip and being up near the top, and you can see some of the trees outside the stadium. And I remember them being golden autumnal at the time for when I went and saw Semedo's only goal for Wednesday and Ryan Lowe scoring in a 2-1 victory at Wycombe.
Oh, lovely stuff.
And that was Jordan Eaves' debut game and debut goal. Scored a decent goal against us as well. So, nice. They're not going to... I don't think they'll pick up many wins, apart from maybe... I'm sure they'll beat us in one of the games.
Yeah, almost guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who have you got in 23rd place then?
I just also want to kind of bring in as well, what I'm going to kind of do as well is I asked my girlfriend, I thought it'd be funny to say, how about I mention these teams to you, going on your information and your knowledge that you would bring this up. So I'm bringing in some of my girlfriend Jennifer's stuff. So the notes I made for Jennifer, I argued with the name of Jennifer for 2 minutes last night. She said they want to be unnoticed as they're afraid of being noticed. She thinks they'll keep it tight and be 16th.
Lovely stuff.
So for 23rd, Rich, I've gone for Luton Town and maybe a smattering of glass houses, but I want to say the worst badge in the Football League. A straw boater hat atop a higgledy-piggledy mess of wingdings. No, this is not the artwork of a rejected Elton John best-of album. It is a Luton Town badge. Alas, their footballing division will not merit some of the Dadaist poetry of that last sentence. Their fate is not being enunciated by Carl Hyde and Underworld, but they are born slippy, with a messy and porous defence that'll be serenaded by Nathan Jones being sacked and then coming back again. Staggered they stayed up last year in a team who conceded 82 goals last season and with a minus 28 goal difference should not still be in this league.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty staggering. I don't know. I mean, so I've got Rotherham, but I've got to say all the way through, Luton and Reading were in my thoughts in terms of a bottom 3 finish. But just for my sort of hard prediction, I've gone for not the 2 of them staying up but they could very, very easily be part of the 3 that go down, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So Jennifer said they actually named them Looting Town. So win or lose, there'll be riots in the streets. Middle of the pack, so no reason for people to feel anything on either side of the spectrum.
Excellent. Okay, the last relegation spot.
Barnsley. And it's pretty much a coin flip between Barnsley and Rotherham. And but then I think I've gone Rotherham for slightly above that for the 21st. So a very kind of South Yorkshire feel to the bottom of the pack. So we may see the Radio Sheffield host signing up for therapy. May I recommend non-sponsor BetterHelp?
You may recommend.
Use the promo code GRAVY and it won't work. So I don't really quite understand the Barnsley mentality and what they're looking at. I'm not sure. I'm still not quite sure how they did it in staying up, but I don't think it'll happen again. Hilariously with this, Rich, I watched a video from a very young kind of 8-9-year-old Norwich fan.
Lovely.
Who was doing his own predictions for the Championship. And he went, I know you did it last year, but you're not doing it again this year. I'm like, wow, this is a confident kid. I bet he's shouting to his mother, fire up the kettle. I'm having a pot noodle with a fruit shoot chaser.
Excellent. Well, I think I've got Reading as my last relegation spot, but I think Coventry and Luton are going to be very close around there. Do you want to go from 6th up the way then for the promotion?
Sure. Jennifer said about Barnsley. She said that's a place. She said if it's big enough to have a whole team, then it'll be middle of the pack. This
is bulging at the middle. This league so far.
I know. It's a big. There's quite a gawping and gaping mid-table in this league, isn't there? Let's be honest.
A paunch, the Championship Paunch. They're going to be on or around the Championship Paunch this season. Okay, who's your 6th place team?
I've gone for Watford.
Okay.
I think they're living with this world of powers of teams coming down, but I get this huge feeling that Watford are in a very serious disarray in terms of identity. I also said don't see this as the pot calling the kettle black, but maybe hopefully we're over this. But I can't see or believe that the squad is of a good age. I think there's a little bit too much elder characters who are a bit lacking.
Elder states.
I've not really been fussed about the transfers they've done so far. I mean, they have signed some players. I'm not confident with their manager being a good appointment. So I think that scraping the playoffs for them will be deemed as a failure for them. But maybe I think looking at kind of Bournemouth, I think that might actually be still quite positive still.
Yeah.
And I also think Deeney will leave, and that will be a difficult replacement for them as a big character and figurehead for the club. I don't know what's happened to the Pozzo family powerhouse of ferrying players around, but they are a long way away from the team that absolutely tore this division a new one. How many years back it was.
They looked a good side not last season, but season before last. Weren't they riding pretty high? Didn't they
I think they were. I think they had that kind of Evertonian position of darting up to 10th or 9th, and then
before falling ill with a nosebleed and having to lie
exactly. But then still clocking up a lot of minutes on Match of the Day with people being like, "Oh, could they?
Troy Deeney said something disparaging about Arsenal.
Before social distancing, so Alan Shearer could be like sat on the couch next to Mark Lawrenson and could give him a little shoulder. Hey, could they? Hey, ooh, cheeky run, ooh, push for Europe, push for Europa League qualification, ooh, early start to the season, ooh.
What's that terrible song? Ooh, catch me, ooh, catch me. You sounded like towards the end.
I don't know what that is, but I'd love you to share that with me later, Rich.
So not to sort of spoil things, but I have some similar feelings about Watford. Although I do think, oddly, they are a club that have thrived on the kind of chaos that has ruined other teams. Like, I know people were sort of shocked and amazed when they got rid of Pearson. At the end of the season. But then weirdly, that's the sort of thing that Watford have been doing consistently for a number of years, and oddly it works for them, and they sort of chop and change the manager. They get rid of the manager and then bring him back in a while, after 6 months, and it sort of, just lots of odd decisions that you would never normally make, and somehow they've managed to kind of not just get away with them, but kind of it's worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
So potentially they could have that sort of everything kind of clumps together in the perfect way, and they do end up just absolutely ruining this league, because there's the potential for them to do that. But I think same as you, I think what will probably happen is they'll not quite find it as easy as they were hoping early doors, and as it slowly becomes apparent they're not going to get the automatic places, I can see them having a dip and another change of manager and stuff like that. But I think they'll probably just about kind of pull it round to get themselves in those promotion places, but in the playoff places by the end. I've got Millwall as my team in sixth. So just sneaking in there. Not a huge amount of thinking behind it, other than they went on that incredible run this season, and maybe if they can carry some of that forward with them, can go a long way. What about what was the verdict on Watford from Jennifer?
She said Watford is going to finish on the upper end of the middle, finish ninth,
okay.
And then a shake-up for next year, as they thought they could do so much better.
I see. The sort of cake tray portion of the Championship Paunch, where you can rest your dinner.
That's it. We're prudent. We're financially responsible in these FFP times and coronavirus. Here on Different Gravy, so we don't recommend buying one of those dinner trays that has pillows at the bottom, so you can kind of cushion it on your lap. We recommend just using what God and sugar gave you. Use that big old belly to rest your scampi fries on.
Excellent. Fifth place?
I've gone for Derby.
Well, once again, I'm on the same page, but please give your...
So I feel that escaping any realm of FFP sanctions will be a big boost to them. I think they'll kick them into next gear and then return to the kind of championship feel that they've had before. I think they'll add a little bit more to them. I think they've saved a good chunk of wages with Martin, Huddleston, Anya going. I think that's going to be positive for them. I think they'll probably make some decent signings eventually. They could be all right. I'm sure they'll just continually throw money at it where we cannot, because we are Wednesday and run badly, and the league hates us, and the EFL is intensely racist towards our owner.
Yes. I suppose that's a bit of tangential news that we didn't mention, that Derby have had their linked case thrown out, although they're not exactly the same circumstances. But it felt that was going to be the case when you read the reasons behind the decision being made in our case. It felt like Derby would get off scot-free because they've probably got the same emails from the same chap in the EFL telling them how to sell their ground and things like that. They just did it in the right time, unfortunately, unlike us. But yeah, I went for Derby. Same sort of... they're perennial contenders. This will be a boost for them. It will mean that they've got some funds available, and generally they're fairly good at spending their money quite wisely. Tend to do quite a good job at picking up the sort of cusp of the Premier League type talent that's sort of driven them for years. Who have you got in? What was Jennifer's verdict on Derby?
Derby sounds like it'll be horse related. Jennifer likes horses, and they'll be really good. So top 5.
Okay. Oh, there you go. We're all in agreement then on Derby. Top 5 all round. What about fourth place?
I've gone for Brentford. I'm really unsure though how this next transition is going to go. The next gear change is going to be. I think it's still gonna be a week one for them, but I still think that they'll probably do all right. Ivan Toney is an exceptionally expensive League One signing.
Yes, yeah.
I can't believe someone's spending. I don't know what voodoo, what they dare do people that Peterborough do in the transfer market. It's insane. It's not.
Well, Peterborough are kind of the lower league Brentford in a way, aren't they?
Sure, but then they maybe right now that's the same because Brentford haven't got out of this division using it. It's been like, let's balance the books, look handsome. So, but they spent that 10 million knowing that effectively at least one of that, the BMW strike force, which was just absolutely insanely good last season, is going. And then, maybe 2. The funny thing is seeing a lot about I think I've also it's Ollie Watkins. It's not Marley Watkins. That's the previously taunted signing for Barnsley, who never really did much and has now drifted into anonymity. He looks like the one to be getting big bucks, and I think it's probably just because he's English and he's young. But Ben Rama's absolute quality. Ben Rama's the one I think really should be. I think he's the one who should be reaching, astronomical funds that again we can't really capitalize on. He'll probably get like 25 million or something ridiculous. So, I mean, the funny thing is, I'm saying that I think the impact of failure last year and potential mass shifting of the strike force will really impact them. But
that they've kind of been doing that same wheeling dealing for a decade, haven't they?
They have. So even though I think this is also the thing I was going to get onto previously, talking about this league of suckiness. I think that they'll still do all right, but I'm wondering if that's because of other teams just not being so great,
Yeah, there's a lot of mulch this championship season. It's interesting. So fourth is where I've put Watford, but I had, for very similar reasons that you had them ending up in sixth. That I just think they'll sort of maybe struggle initially, but I think they'll kind of pull things together and have the resources to top things up in January to kind of turn things around. What was Jennifer's verdict on Brentford?
This was a good one. Brentford sounds like Bradford's lesser known little brother. Not quite as good as their big brother. The regulation dance. Which I kept in, even though later on I did correct Jennifer and said it's relegation, not regulation.
What's funnier is that we just know that Jennifer's predictions are going to be much better than ours.
I know.
We spent time thinking about it and pondering it.
And arduously thinking.
I think we know what we're talking about.
So I don't know if I told you about my friend Daz does a prediction league every year, and he did a prediction for I think it would have been last Euros, because I guess obviously we would have had the European competition this year, but obviously it's not happening with the pandemic. But Daz's mum did well because she'd never heard of the Netherlands, so she didn't think they would be any good. And that was a bit of kind of counter thinking that actually worked. That actually put her in like really good stead, because Holland had a really bad tournament that year.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, no, they'll do really well. Or they'll definitely get past the group stage.
They always pull it together for the tournament.
Yeah.
Very good.
Maybe we just need to get 1,000 monkeys and 1,000 typewriters predicting the championship.
What about who's going to just miss out on the automatic places for you then, Luke?
I've gone for Swansea.
Ooh.
So this was hard. This is really hard because they're Welsh. Also, I was very sceptical of Swansea last year, and they did a lot more than I thought they would do. So again, mainly because I'm doing predictions, I'm hoping, maybe I'm doing this hoping to be wrong and hoping that Swansea aren't any good. But I think they're probably going to be a
sadness hedge.
It is a sadness hedge, but I genuinely think they're going to be around the same bag as last year. And the manager effect of having Steve Cooper seems a huge pull to get some top talents, and he makes them an attractive outfit, even if his face isn't attractive. And I also said I feel like their improvement will also be really thanks to the failures of other sides.
Yeah, and I suppose as well, it's one of those things, one of those unfair advantages of having an in at one of those big talent farm clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Is quite a nice thing to have on board as a championship team.
It really is.
Was it so?
Oh, it really is.
Yeah. So for third, I sort of almost by default, I'm not sure. Like I've said, Stoke I think might be a surprise package, and then now they're in third, and I'm like, I don't know about that actually. But it was the space that was left in the playoff places, so I've got Stoke third, but probably not. But maybe Watford and Stoke should swap. But yeah, Stoke third. That's where I've plopped them. So what was Jennifer's prediction of Swansea then?
Swansea sounds like that really great pal. Sure, has been used for drunk friends in a lot of sitcom. Will enjoy themselves, not worry about anything, and will move up to the top of the division.
Wow. Okay.
Did I tell you my predictions of the league, Rich, while you're saying that you had spaces that at the end of it, you're like, well, fuck it, they're just going to go there. As you get to the end of the predictions and you really don't care.
Yeah,
I had Millwall twice.
Oh, wow.
I had them at 8th and then 12th. The team I completely forgot about was Nottingham Forest. So I ended up putting Forest in 8th and Millwall in 12th. Just a bit swap. They don't feature in my top 6.
Who's second place for you? First promotion?
I really hate making this, Rich. I've gone for Cardiff.
Oof. I've made Swansea and Cardiff a sort of special note that they will both be close in terms of the championship. But yeah, Cardiff in second spot. Wow.
This was the hardest decision I had to make in my predictions. Who is the 23rd worst at sucking in this league? So many teams reeking of failure, and then there's a weird element right now that so many clubs have not made signs to kick on from what they have before. So weirdly, I'm going for Cardiff. Kiefer Moore, I think, is a very good and fun signing. Really envious of that one. I think there is still talent in creating a battle-ready team with a sturdy yet tedious manager, Neil Harris, that will kick lumps to the top flight. The victorious dirty bastards. And I still don't quite understand Cardiff. I think I've mentioned this before, and like looking at the team, but like I still look at like some of the players that they have, and I'm like, there's a fair whack of talent there. You know, in their kind of like relegation transition. Is this this might be their last year of parachute payments, I guess.
Oh, possibly, yeah.
But I think they've also still got those tools that kind of Warnock's put in place. They've got the hangover of pace and industry still there.
Yes, yeah.
Tomlin pisses me off no end, but I'm sure he'll do okay. I'm sure he'll wind up with people with a few cheeky things. Aidan Flint's still there. There's a lot of talent there.
There is. I totally agree. I think Moore is a great signing. I'm very disappointed that we. I suppose £2 million probably puts him out of our price range at the moment, unfortunately. But the sort of player I think Monk would have got a lot of joy out of as a front man to build things around. I was really quite impressed. I've been quite impressed with him the times I've seen him against Wednesday. I think that's a shrewd call. I do think they'll be right up there, but automatic seems a long way. But who knows? Who knows? I've got Brentford in second, so I think they'll.
Okay.
I just think that they're used to sort of doing the build, and I think their underlying team has gradually got better. And if you think that Watkins wasn't even really a striker, that was sort of a new position they tried him in. I think Tony's probably got the potential to go off like a rocket if they can get the right players around him. I think they'll do it. And also I think the sting of probably having been the best, like second best or the best team in the league, and missing out through the playoffs, I think can be a really driving, motivating factor for them. So I think they'll wind up second. So to our sort of missing third expert, Cardiff, what was the verdict on Cardiff?
Jennifer said they'll get in touch with the Torchwood Institute to manipulate space and time. If the universe doesn't collapse, then they'll finish top 10.
Brilliant. Who's top of the tree? I
feel we're going to agree on our number one. Top of the pops is Norwich.
Norwich, yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of people saying they're going to be around the top or in the automatic spot, and I really agree. I'm really impressed with their signing so far. I think I'm wondering from what I'm saying, and I'm probably obviously definitely going to be wrong with this, but I think I'm saying looking at a lot of teams and being like, I'm not sure, I think they're definitely a team that will just motor away from anyone else.
They've got the Burnley weather balloon promotion, essentially. Go up, grab all that cash, don't spend anything really, don't pretend like you even want to stay there. And then have a proper go the next time round, and this is their proper go, I think. Yeah,
I think even with some high-profile sales, which I've no doubt they will, I'm confident that they'll replace them well as well. For a signing, Hugo is a really good signing for a club like them in their position.
Yeah.
Oliver Skip could be a pretty useful loan. I think that ticks a few boxes.
Yeah.
Kieran Dowell's pretty decent as well. So here's the thing. I'm not scared of, I think as I said previously, I'm not scared of their parachute payments. I'm scared of when they flog some of their players notably a young English player, catching the eyes of teams and the media alike in Cantwell for a decent chunk of change.
Yeah.
And they can go use that money for a few more decent sides for this division. The exception to this set of predictions is I think there'll be a team who will be genuinely good and oddly fired up for this season, as opposed to most teams that seem a bit limp-dicked and living with the fear of living life.
And the all-important prediction from Jennifer for Norwich?
Norwich will blow everyone away. It's actually pronounced Norwich, and they will finish top 3.
Superb. I love the hedge in that. They'll blow everyone away and finish in the top 3.
I know. Yeah.
Even at this early stage, there's a built-in hedge. I like it. Okay, well that leads us on to neither of us have mentioned Sheffield Wednesday in either of these sets of predictions.
I think the fan base are going to be. I think anyone listening is going to be incredibly disappointed that we didn't, or maybe optimistic that we didn't.
Yeah. So where have you put Wednesday? Where?
So 20th. Initially, I went with 21st, and then we were below Rotherham, and I thought there's no way in hell we'll finish below Rotherham. For any merit to Paul Warne and any detriment to ourselves, even with negatives, and I believe the positives under Monk, we have enough in the tank to do mildly better than the Millers.
Yeah, I've said my sort of positive prediction is that we'll break the top 20, but I would snatch your hand off for 21st right now. I think Wednesday fans are fooling themselves at the moment if they're not looking at all of these predictions, putting us rock bottom and having a serious this is dire straits. It's a huge points deduction to come back from, and it's a different thing. I know Gary Monk overcame 9 points at Birmingham, but it's a different thing having lots of points in the bag, taking a hit, and then topping up. I think starting from underwater is a really, really tough job. What were you going to say? Sorry.
So I know it's dire straits, but maybe we could be brothers in arms and sultans of swing up to outside the relegation spots.
Yes, yeah. I just think for the players, by the time I haven't actually, I should have done this really, but have you made a prediction for what game you think we'll break even at?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I should probably scramble to do that. But I think barring talk of promotion just seems absolutely nutty outside of incredible signings or the penalty points getting dropped altogether. People need to not listen to Che Dunkley. That is, I like that he says it in some ways, although it sort of worries me in other ways, because what happens if we get to November and it's clear we're not on a path to promotion? Do heads go?
I feel like getting in the spirit and getting him doing this. I've written some stuff here which I can read out, which is a lot more optimistic than yourself.
Okay.
So I just get the feeling there's enough there in spirit in total. It kind of feels like an out-of-this-world accumulation of enough. It's like compound interest in a bank account that had a fiver in it from 1937. It strangely adds up to something. Having Bannon still, having Izzy Brown now, the arrival of new staff giving everyone a lift, beating his record with strikers. I think there's going to be goals from Che Dunkley. I'm now hoping for a long and hopefully injury-free season from Luongo. Yes. Those all feel like dissonant components, but I think and feel that there is more in cohesion and unity within the squad now to make all those things count together. There is more of us highly paid players who didn't match that financial contribution on the pitch, clearing, and I think that's going to have a positive effect.
Yeah.
The only players I think who are really on big wedges are still there. Bannon, I think he's someone who has a great attitude, commands a lot of respect, so good favour on the training ground. I think I get the same feelings of, his mate Fletch. From that respect, he's someone who's paid a lot, but then actually performs and has the ability that everyone looks around and says, yeah, he's the real deal. Westwood's either going to be gone or out of sight. Interesting that we've promoted Josh Render and to the three goalkeepers that Flatherhand's been working on that came from the thing. So Westwood's in the under 23s and just completely out of sight. And I also think people in the squad have a respect for Rhodes, for I think how much he works, regardless of whether we're getting the bang for our buck for, our record signing. But again, the thing I'm looking and the people who've gone, I'm thinking with the exception of Fletcher, maybe New You as well at a push. I've also foxed to a lesser degree, and now I'm walking back what I've written here now.
No, say it, because I think it's probably. I think I mainly I do agree with the sentiment that you're.
I'm genuinely struggling to think if there's anyone who is gone who is missed.
Yeah.
I don't think that in this current regime, none of those players who were gone really improved beyond their own capabilities of being part of a team in a way.
Yeah.
I think you know that kind of effect in utilization we found under Gray and Laws. It's bad that we're not getting that collective mileage out of players anymore. But then I'm genuinely struggling to see often that there are players who are that much worse. I don't know if that's kind of making sense. But
yeah, I know what you mean.
So I'm like, if we're in the worst instance, I'm going to say that just trading down players mildly for cheaper wages, then it's still a result, really. Because that kind of came down to it. The really sad thing is the Moneyball effect. If you pay the big wages, you get the players, making the big plays, and you get that advantage. But we were essentially just paying players to just be shit, really. Handsome, generous wages. It was an absolute disaster. So then if I get someone in who's younger, who's on less money, it's still a result. It's still that savings just going to be, maybe I'm just being mildly dreaming with all that. One thing I haven't mentioned is the belief of Gary Monk. Granted that an American campaign this year, he would make a half-decent man of rhetoric that misses out on the Democratic candidacy. So he's maybe the Andrew Yang or Mayor Pete at Sheffield Wednesday. So, he does talk a good game, but it feels clear that he's someone with an astonishing faith in himself. And I'm wondering if the sun is Gary Monk, much like the Teletubbies baby, then the clouds are clearing and he'll beam his coyness here, there, and everywhere. I think he's historically the character for this situation, which is a really harsh endorsement and not something he wants to entertain. But I think his past with that at Birmingham makes me feel better about things. We seem to be rejuvenated. And granted, I've said 20th, even with a deduction, I can't see us being the worst team in this league. We'll have bad days, sure, but I think there's more good days than bad.
Well, that's tremendous. Thank you so much for that, Luke. And I don't disagree with any part of it. I think there's lots of things that need to work out for us.
Do you feel that I feel that this is the overarching question I've got into with all of the positives? We're counting heads, we're adding everything that's around. I feel the question is rich. The overarching question is it enough?
Yeah.
And I feel that you're of the side of saying it's not enough.
Oh, I think it will be enough. I think we can say I think we'll survive. It's how comfortable that is. But I do think we're helped by the fact that this looks like a championship with more poor teams than it usually has. I think the three teams that have come up are particularly bad from what I can see. Maybe they'll surprise us, but they look like quite weak teams coming up. I think the fact that because of Wigan's deduction, as we touched on, Luton are there, and to an extent Barnsley are here when they didn't really deserve to be on the merit of their own football. So we should be looking at that and going, well, that's 5 teams we should do better than for a start, which takes us to sort of 18th, 19th. I'm optimistic that we will survive. I just worry, in addition to the change of atmosphere with the players and getting rid of some of those squad members that have just been kind of taking a wage and not providing enough for it. I think we as fans need to be, when we're given the opportunity, be a part of that as well. We need to. So my worry is having people like Dunkley come out and say, "Oh yeah, we're pulling for promotion." There's a group within our fan base. I wouldn't say it's all of the fan base, but there's a group within our fan base that kind of appeared in time to go to Wembley and have brought a negativity with them that has been wholly unwelcome. And I don't think anybody should be going into this season thinking, oh yeah, we're going to get promoted, we're going to win every game. We are going to have to fight for our lives to finish. We could have the best season we've had in years and still finish in the bottom half of the table because we're starting on the negative that we're starting on. So I think having some realism is probably good as well, because it's going to be hard winning games and then not only are we not moving in the table, we're not even we're not on the same grading as other teams who are moving in the table. And by the time we get 0 points, a lot of the teams around us will have 6, 7, 8 points. So it will be we'll probably be catching up till beyond Christmas. That's a long marathon mentally. And if we're going in going, oh yeah, top 6 finish, blah, 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 then you're not going to have a good time this season. Get yourself prepared for a battle, and not being relegated is a win. And I think having that mentality will give you a much more enjoyable season as a Wednesday fan. Going in, get your kind of mental armor on, because it's going to be tough. But like you, I share a lot of positivity. I think we've signed some exciting young players. If we can get a full season out of Luongo fit, that will be so much further on from where we were. Izzy Brown, if he can get fit and stay fit, looks like a heck of a player to have around.
Yeah.
And if
just a quick question, Ray. How did you think Izzy Brown fared today in the friendly? I think people said
I thought he looked really bright. I thought he was kind of blowing after about 20 minutes. Fitness-wise, there's a lot of running to do this week. I think these next 2 weeks. But I thought he looked bright, and what he needs is a striker that's making runs in behind that he can play passes to, because he's not a goal scorer particularly. He's a creator, and we need somebody that can, if he's supplying the bullets, we need somebody that can take that shot. Because his one free kick was brilliant and should have been a goal, but I also headed it straight up in the air. So that. But yeah, so I think sort of 19th, 18th is my realistic 19th. I think is my realistic prediction of where I think we'll end up,
which is a real positive for us in this situation. So where did you since when did you think we'll break even?
I know it's quite convenient, but I think probably I think Halloween looks like there's a run of quite winnable games in October, and I'd hope by the end of those we will have picked up 12 points altogether. The three in September are tricky, I think.
Do you also think, much like again, if I'm looking for positives, and I was on the scourge of the internet Reddit looking at some kind of championship page, and found myself had to detach myself and not log in with my thing and call people twats, including a Villa fan who predicted bad news for Wednesday, and I felt like, fuck off, you're not even in this division, you fucking dickheads. You saved up by the skin of your fucking teeth. Villa. I don't know. I like clubs like Villa when they're in the league above us, and when they're actually our competitors, I'm just like, oh, fuck you. Fuck off. Similar deal with Fulham. I remember used to think nice things about Fulham with the Clint Dempsey, and then they came down. I'm like, fuck off. So anyway, the point I was going to get onto is I was going to ask you, Rich, so you said break even by 31st of October?
That's right, yeah.
Well, something else I was going to ask you. I'm so sorry. I got distracted.
It was the race.
No, that was it. That was what I was going to say. I will say, just to tie up that loose knot of a point, break even, I said, by the 8th game, I think. So this is ambitious, but I'm going for a 1.5 points per game average. Bit of belief and go for it.
So you've gone one game ahead of me, essentially.
Right, okay. So it's not that. I wondered about coming down from my heady fumes of optimism by walking back from 8th to 9th, maybe. So actually that would be probably about the same, maybe.
But I think, we've touched on Cardiff for all the reasons is a tough start. Watford, maybe it's the right time to play Watford, but Watford are going to be tricky at any point. Bristol City are always there or thereabouts, so that's a tough game. But then we've got QPR, Birmingham.
Bristol City will be shite this year.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll be ahead of the curve then. But QPR, that's a winnable game at home. Birmingham, who knows? But we have won at Birmingham before, and there's always it's the Coy Derby, isn't it, of Birmingham City.
It is indeed. The thing I wanted to say was, I was reading these Reddit predictions and getting irritated with people being like, we're rock bottom. But I'm wondering if that's going to filter into how we're maybe going to perform better. I feel like, when the doubts are against us, I feel like we're going to do better. I feel like it's the Gary Monk lesser percentage. We got the goals.
Quite possibly. Yeah, I hope so. The sort of caveat that stops me being wholehearted, although I know that things have changed, so that's a real positive in favour of this season being different and better. But we didn't see any of that siege mentality last season.
No.
Because we could have very easily been in a position where it didn't matter if they took 12 points last season. And we didn't get over that line. We slumped towards the end.
We didn't know it was there, though.
I know we didn't. And hopefully...
I mean, the thing that we were kind of saying, and we were like, we bloody hope the players know that this is coming, because they're looking like they're on the beach. They're looking like they don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really hoping it's different. I mean, obviously, that's everything around the optimism I'm taking into this.
Yeah.
Is I'm really hoping the players understand that a thing called siege mentality exists, and you can have it. It can be achieved.
You too can have siege mentality.
For the low price of £19.95.
For the low price of getting in my bunker. You too. With any luck, a bit of Stockholm syndrome as well. Okay, well, let's to round things off then. We're going to name the Wednesday Player of the Season and who we think the top scorer will be. So first off, who have you got for your Player of the Season?
I've gone with Izzy Brown.
Nice. He was up there for me. I've gone for Harris. Kadeem Harris.
Oh, I would love you to be right beyond me. But I'd also love to see a very productive, very creative Izzy Brown. It'd
be nice if they're both, duking it out for the title. I nearly went for Iorfa, but then I thought, come on, let's live in hope.
That also smacks of like a mid-table Wednesday team where we just be like, Lee Grant's Player of the Season.
Yeah.
Is that because no one else was any good? Yes. Well, Lee Grant was really good. Lee Grant kept us in it because we couldn't score enough goals, basically. Maybe that would be. What if it was amazing if Cameron Dawson was genuinely was Player of the Season? Can you imagine?
Can you imagine the sort of season we will have just sat through? Oh dear.
Does that mean, but I'd imagine that would think not that Cameron Dawson would be really good, but unfortunately it'd probably be like everyone else would just
everyone else has dropped to the level
in Luke's rankings of suck. Yeah,
rankings of suck. But for me, Harris, I think he's been a revelation at that wing-back position. I don't know if he's ever played it before in his life, but he looks so natural there. And the way he's either being told to play or the way he naturally plays it uses his best assets to fill the position. So because he's defending on the front foot, his pace means he's on the player before they get a chance to sort of turn and run at him. So his defending becomes simple because of that. And he is still, if we can get somebody in the box that can score a freaking goal, he is still an assist machine. It's just, he really, really missed having Stephen Fletcher, as did everybody else. Because today he put 2 or 3 very, very decent balls into the box, and he gave the right back and the right-sided centre-back a torrid time, inside, outside. He'll keep doing that all season. And for 90 minutes, he's got such a tremendous gas tank on him. And I just think, provided we can get somebody that can score some goals, he's going to come out shining in this system we're playing. Who have you got for your top scorer?
Again, if he comes and also in a if he comes and wins a ticket in this presidential year, then Trumpy Bum 2020.
Oh,
when they go nice. High, I go the middling 8 goals a season. Yo, Luke's impression of Trump is robbed from the Kid Mero's Trumpedo. Suck my dick from the back. My popper has the key to hull.
Oh, beautiful stuff.
Do you think Josh Windass will follow his daddy's footsteps and go to Hull at some point?
I would think so.
I mean, that would seem. I think that would be nice. I think that would be like if we're kind of kidding ourselves or feeling like a bit like, I don't know, a bit like a lesser degree of how Messi's a bit like, well, when I can't do this at the top level anymore, I'll just go play for Newell's Old Boys in Argentina.
Yes,
I think we'll think a little bit about, well, Maybe we could have Vardy for a season or two when he's had a serious injury and lost a yard of pace and can't do it in the Premier League.
Well, apparently that won't be anytime soon. Apparently he's...
maybe when he's 38, 39, maybe.
Yeah, apparently he's getting fitter. His resting heart rate is better than it's ever been at the start of a pre-season. Incredible. What an athlete.
Was that what he said? Was that what he said in Thai?
Yes.
So, but I mean, if he doesn't come, then I'm going to go Shea Dunkley with 7 goals this season. I'm excited about goals from Shea Dunkley. I'm excited about set pieces.
Luke, get out of my head, please. Because for top scorer, Rich has gone for Shea Dunkley.
How many do you have for Shea
Dunkley? I think he might get 8, but
I'd love to see.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's so funny. Done it, especially because yours is like a sort of humorous aside. I mean, looking at the current squad, I just don't know where the goals are coming from right now.
So a thing I thought I entertained, but I didn't voice it, and now, oh god, now I'm going to voice it, and now I'm going to feel embarrassed and awkward. But we're making heady, we've got heady cocaine ideas here. We're feeling full of ourselves. I'm curious. It might not be to the tune of anything that would be a top signing, but I'm genuinely wondering if maybe last year of his contract, a bit of guidance from BT. I'm wondering whether Rhodes might improve.
Good.
I mean, right now we have to play him. There's no one bloody else.
For Luke. Too much cocaine.
He's going to definitely get game time now because there's nobody else.
You can tell you didn't watch the game today. Man alive.
So I can walk that thought back, basically.
Well, I mean, who knows? If anything's going to fix... I don't know whether it's possible to fix. I don't know what's wrong with him. I don't... But, if anything was going to fix him, having that, reasonably storied pro. Maybe, Luke, maybe. Who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Shall I give you Jennifer's opinion on Wednesday?
Please.
She says... They will surprise their fans by turning up and playing football. 13th.
Oh, wow. Dreamland.
I'll have what she's having.
No, you won't, because we've already established you've had too much of those cocaines. Far too many nose cocaines for Luke. Oh, wow. I'm sort of exhausted.
Okay, well, I can kind of clearly tell us some more kind of... so I want to pick up some of my favourite Jennifer's predictions.
Please do.
So... Oh, did I say what she said about Bournemouth? She said, what? Bournemouth? You're making this shit up, aren't you? These aren't real places. Super bland, not doing anything Spectra on any end of the spectrum. We'll hardly notice them.
Seems like a good...
Another one I really enjoyed was Rotherham. Jennifer said, that sounds like something Scooby-Doo would say. They will then appear like they're being chased by a man in a mask. That will work for them and they'll finish 4th.
Superb.
I think that's the cream of the predictions.
that is.
QPR, she said, is it just 3 letters? Do they dress like park rangers after I explain the title? They'll probably wear their big poofy hats. Top 5 after paying someone off. There we go. Nick DeMarco is going to get his hands dirty.
Oh, well, he's always making them pies and stuff, so,
He does get his hands dirty by making some delicious pies.
Delicious pies.
And he makes his hands dirty by making some lovely videos about them as well.
It's about time he turns his hand to something a bit more nefarious. Come on. Stop being so wholesome. Oh wow. Well, that's it's going to be fun to see how those predictions age as the season rolls on.
We'll see whether it turns into a fine bottle of wine or just a bottle of piss, basically.
Yes, yeah. But we're ever hopeful. We come hopeful, enthusiastic, and looking forward to the new season. But we definitely need another couple of signings. I think that's the main takeaway from today. Is we need something up top. We need something to build around. But what a treat! Thank you so much, Luke, and please give my thanks to Jennifer for her highlight contributions.
I'll pass that on. She'll also hear this as well. So thank you, Jennifer.
Tremendous. I'm gonna say I think this is a good time as any to wrap things up, Luke, and wish you a good week and wish the folks at home a good week, and we'll be back to report on our game against Walsall.
That sounds good. Have a good week, everybody. See you then, Rich.
Cheerio.